welcome to Real Talk, episode 59. I'm Todd, this is AJ.
Yo.
And we're back. What's Real Talk? I want to let you know fast. Real Talk's an opportunity to talk about life, God, the Bible, and everything in between. Up above, you're going to see a link, www.theremnant.live/real-talk. Click it. You can drop in a question, topic, concern about us, God, the Bible, maybe something in your life. It'll go in completely anonymously. We couldn't find you if we tried. We've tried. That's typically what you're supposed to say there.
We've tried.
You also have a little liquid on your beard. So anyway, yeah, we want to get that over with quick so we don't bore you. So anyway,
Nice
welcome.
business.
59 episodes in, and we're excited to be here with you.
We are here, better than ever, and you guys may notice something different. Why don't you guys let us know what's different?
It's his beard. I'm just kidding.
It's everything.
So, I mean, what is different? I feel a little weird about it. I feel a little uncomfortable. It's not my normal seating.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But we do have a couple questions today that were put in to the database, so thank you to those that asked. We'll get to those. But we typically like to start, and we're just going to dive right in, guys. We want to talk about kind of how our weeks are going. Before we do that, one other thing. Guys, we need your help. If this has blessed you in any way, if you're listening to this point, would you join us in this ministry and just share it and like the video and drop a comment below? Shout out to a few people I know that there's a lot of people that regularly comment, but we just appreciate you guys, so I probably shouldn't shout them out because I'd shout out like 10. But thank you guys so much. Awesome. So, man, how have you been?
So, my week, first off, I just want to go into the fact that, it does feel weird doing this layout.
You can pull it closer, man.
I know,
We
right?
have control, man. You want to have it right in your face? Have it in your face. We'll mess with it.
I kind of do. Here we go. Now, anyways.
There's a weird smile like that.
So, my week. As time goes on, I'm just kidding, but as time goes on, what I've realized is there's so much stuff that doesn't matter. I find myself every day trying to process life, right? Every once in a while I have these nights where I sit around, you've been there for them, where I'm like, what is life? Like, what about this? What about that? And what did I say that one night? I said something really funny that made you guys laugh.
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
He said,
what is the appeal
of nothing.
What is the appeal of nothing? Yeah, just stuff like just
No
stuff like
context
that.
there.
Yeah, no context. You'll never know. And what I've realized, man, is I've grown, and I don't know if this is just from my upbringing, but even despite being a Christian for 2 years, not 2 years, 3 years, I still find myself struggling to process things, like, in general. So, like, when I am just sitting around, chilling out, doing whatever, a lot of the time I like to think that I can reflect on things, but a lot of the time my mind feels numb, And it's interesting because, like I said, every once in a while I have those breakthrough nights where I'm like, what is life? What are all these things? But, like, I guess I wish I could do that daily. And I think I can, it just doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Do what? The talking about it, or like thinking about it, or what do you mean?
Actually, like, thinking about it, because for me, if I'm being honest, real, I feel like when I'm actually thinking about that stuff, I talk about it. So if I'm not talking, I'm probably just numb. Like, I'm not even
I get that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, and I found myself very quiet. And that's not always a bad thing, but if it's like every day, and that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like every day I'm just kind of like, I'm not in a bad place. It's just here, but, like, not here. Like, I'm sitting here, but
you're not really present.
Exactly, in a way. And I think we've talked about that before, but, like, so, like, what is being present? Sometimes I ask myself that, like, what does that mean? Does that mean,
It's a great question.
Does that mean listening to somebody, for real? Because I feel like I listen to people pretty well usually, but, like, how does that, like, what does that fully look like? Or, how does it look like to be fully present in a room of 5 or in a room of 4 or whatever, even.
Where not everyone's even talking to you all the time.
Sure. Like stuff like that, man. Like, and sometimes I think about that stuff, and I've come to the conclusion that, man, a lot of the time life, especially for people who are not believers or people who are lost, we tend to just we try to just cover pain and all these things with pleasure, right? Or just whatever we can find to not feel. But for me, being a Christian and being, I love Jesus. It's very interesting that I still, like, I feel like that numbness. Like, I'm just kind of like, ugh.
Where do you think that comes from?
I think for me, it's something that I was raised in. I think I didn't talk about life with anybody until I was, like truly talk about life. Like, I might have had a couple of good conversations here and there in my upbringing, especially like in teenage years, high school.
With friends and stuff.
Sure. But like as far as like any other times there, younger, into, middle school, into high school, it was very rare for me to actually have a really real conversation with somebody. It was always very surface level, or it just never got brought up. It was just all about laughing and joking and whatever, and that was it. So I think that's a big reason. I think another reason is I don't. How can I put this? I think I'm scared. Like I'm scared of what's in there.
I think I get that. But go on. What do you mean?
Like,
where will it lead you that you're afraid of? Maybe like you don't have to be specific.
Sure. Well, I know. I think I've talked about this before, but I know that I think I could get scared because I know before I came here, I was living in Fort Wayne and I was just like a literal zombie. Like, and I remember feeling so numb, but not at the same time. I was feeling everything, but not. It was so crazy. And like, I remember like wanting to die, literally wanting to die. And I think what happened is that was me finally like letting it in. Like, all right, this is what is going on. And it was like,
not distracting yourself.
Exactly. And that came to the conclusion of I want to die. And I was like, wow, like that was shocking to me. Like I feel like that thought was always there, but I would always push it down. So when I finally let that out, it was kind of scary. And like, so I think for me, I get scared. Like I don't want to open that up all the time because then I don't know what's going to happen. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes sense to me because, for all of our differences, we've come to find there's a lot of similarities.
Right.
And I definitely do that at times. I run from myself, or sometimes even when the picture I get all the time, God meets people out in the wilderness, usually wilderness being wherever that is, alone. And there's times that I feel that call to go there. And I think sometimes that's even inside, right? That wilderness could be, hey, I need you to come in here and meet with me and talk to me because I want to look at this. And I run from it because of the same thing. I'm afraid.
Yeah. And I justify it. And the thing is, and the way I justify it is I'm always like, well, you know what? I'm just trying to be joyful. Or I'm trying to choose joy, which I guess in some cases is probably good.
Yeah.
But not always. Like if my only justification is like, oh, I'm not going to process these things. I'm not going to think about them because I'm trying to choose joy and, be a light to all these people. I think that's good unless you're, like, are you really living still? Are you? Like, I don't know. If you're living your life just covering all that stuff up and then just, is that a mask? I don't know. Like,
I think it's cool, man, when you share these things or when people think about these things because it reminds me of a couple things. It reminds me the idea of thinking about, because what you're really thinking about, man, is existence. It's life. It's, what is all of this? Because sometimes maybe people, I know you and I have had this talk, but you have these moments of what is this? Like, what is this life, right? Like what is it? Especially in moments like we're in right now, it becomes even more.
Oh yeah.
Because some of the distractions are gone. So now you're dealing with, okay, what is life? But it reminds me of in the Bible, Psalms, and even more, maybe more so Ecclesiastes, where Ecclesiastes we have this guy, wisest guy in the world's ever known, probably human, right? And he is he's at the end of his life. He's had it all. He's been wealthy, rich. Well, it's the same thing. Wealthy, famous. Had women and everything he wanted. And he's sitting here at the end of his life saying, "Hey, all of this is nothing, without
That's
God."
right.
And what does that look like? And even with God, there's moments where, when I think of you saying these things, to me, it reminds me of Ecclesiastes when he's asking these crazy questions like, meaningless, everything is meaningless, right? Or the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. Like all of these things about life, good things happen, bad things happen, and it doesn't seem to make sense. And then he comes back to God, right? And that's the thing we stick to. So I think it's cool to encourage you. I think you're in good company.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, a lot of godly men, people that love God have to have these same thoughts. And I
Yeah.
think it points back to what it tells us throughout it is, man,
It's
you know,
just
the echoes of Eden, man. We're longing for
yes.
that.
Well, and one thing I've been reading a lot of Paul. Been going through New Testament, and a lot of the time they mention the mystery gospel, mystery gospel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it is a mystery because, like you said, you know, even if I'm trying to prioritize God in my life, that still doesn't always make it feel like the things I'm doing are worth anything.
That's deep.
Because, like, what does that mean? Like, what? Okay, so I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm a Christian now. I love God. I'm going to put God above everything. Okay, well, then what does everything else mean? Because what am I supposed to do with that? Like, I'm not just supposed to, because I already know I'm not supposed to sit here and wake up and go, I'm just going to get on my knees and worship God all day, which is, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but like,
Yeah, you
God
worship
has a
and how you
mission.
live that life out.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, it's very interesting because then it's so easy. And I think that's why to me, this might be like, paralysis over.
Analysis by paralysis,
Yeah,
or paralysis by analysis.
Yes, where I think, you know what, like, I can do that, but I know that God's told me to live my life and you're on a mission, so you have to go do these things. And through that, you're going to find your gifts. You're going to find things that you enjoy and all these things as long as it's not above God. So then I kind of get paralyzed because I go, well, I don't want to find something and put it above God because I've been there and it hurts. And like, and if he has to, he'll take it away. And like, that's scary in itself. But then you also don't want to sit here living numb, not doing anything.
Like being so afraid he's going to take things or being so afraid to make something an idol that you don't live life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You just kind of sit there. And
we've talked about that in relationships, I think specifically, right?
Absolutely.
Both of us in the past, before we were Christians, or at least early on, we would make women our idols. A lot of you guys do that. A lot of women do that. And I think both of us have been, you've wrestled this, certainly I have too. We saw what that did,
Yes.
the damage of making them idols, both to ourselves, to the girl, to our life.
Oh, yeah.
And so now it's like, I don't want to do that. For sure, I don't want to do that.
It's a big wound.
So then and so then it's that wrestling of, okay, I certainly don't want to make her an idol. She cannot be more important than God or anything else. So you come over here and then you end up going, well, shoot, am I gone too far?
Yes. And I tend to apply that one. So like, I'll take that one corner of life, the relationship thing, but I'll take that and I'll try to apply it to everything else. So then I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't enjoy this too much.
Almost like you think if you enjoy something too much, that's making it an idol.
In a way.
No, I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true, but I think that's a really deep way to look at it. Like, is that a way the enemy can get us too? He's like, okay, I can't make you not make things idols, so I'm going to make you afraid to have joy. I'm going to make you afraid to enjoy things because I'm going to make you go, oh, am I making it an idol?
Right, because then he's creating doubt and like, I don't know, man. It's just what a mystery life is.
But really. But that brings me back to that's not freedom.
True.
Right? Jesus talks about freedom, so to encourage you, I think the very fact that you even consider whether it is shows that those things aren't. Because honestly, most of the time when someone's making something an idol, right? Meaning, what we're meaning by that is like it's the most important thing in our lives. The old saying is everybody worships something, right? Whether they call it God, a God or not.
That's right.
Relationships, money, sex, alcohol, fame, sports, right?
That's right.
What I think is interesting is the fact that you're even considering that shows you aren't, because most people that make things idols, I don't think they're even aware of it or they don't want to. Here's the scary thing. I know there were times in my life, early in my Christian faith, in that relationship I had, at 21, 22, that really affected my entire life was, I don't think, first off, no one told me that, but even if they had, I would have justified it because I don't know if I was at the place in my life that I was willing to hear it. And that's what's scary sometimes. So to encourage you, man, like, I definitely think God wants you to enjoy things, to enjoy life. And
absolutely,
that's freedom in Christ. Freedom in Christ tells me, as much as I think about this all the time, like, okay, God is my Father. I am his son. Because of Jesus, he is pleased with me all the time. He may not be pleased with what I do sometimes, right? Because of the action, but he is pleased with me. What does that mean? Like, he originally made this world for me to walk it, for us to subdue it, to rule it in his name, to enjoy it. So I can enjoy that, man. And in the very act of enjoying it, while recognizing who he is in my life, is worshiping him. because I'm
That's good.
fulfilling what he told me to do.
I like that.
You know what I mean? It's just a thought I've been having. But I would agree with you that sometimes the line is,
Yeah, it's
know.
blurry sometimes. Like or like I even think of I think of people in the Bible, who maybe that was their original like mindset, right? Like we're gonna take this, we're gonna rule this, and we're gonna enjoy life all for God, and before you know it, they're pagans. Or like, or like they're just doing something that's so against God, even though they think they're so blind to the idea, like they just think they're enjoying what God's given them, but they're really just going against Him entirely. It's just crazy.
Something that hit me though, man, is maybe some of the times I am wrestling with where that line is because I'm not spending enough time with him to where I naturally know where the line is.
That's good.
So I'll start to say, because that's where it's scary too. Like, okay, God, I'm going to learn how to please you, be like you, love like you, without actually spending any time with you, just because I know you. Instead of doing when I'm in prayer, truthfully, when I'm spending time talking to God, prayer is not this, how Father art thou? It's just talking to him and praying and just thinking and praising him and all those things, man. I find myself naturally more at ease, more comfortable, more at peace, and radiating joy and all those things. You know what I mean? It's almost like an afterglow. When I spend so much time with him, I walk away and I naturally have an afterglow of being like him. And it's easier for me to recognize where things are at. Really I see more clearly. I don't know. Just a thought.
I feel like it's funny, man. Like I think faith. I think we've said this before on the show, but like I feel like faith is so, Christianity, like the idea of it is so simple.
It is.
When you actually like if you were to take it down and write down what you're supposed to do it would probably take a single piece of paper. Like this is life, this is what you do. But then for some reason, it's so complicated.
I think that goes back to Paul in Romans 7 because we have this part of us that's not fully fixed yet, right? The Holy Spirit is doing it. We can't fix ourselves, which that's a cool thought. You're sitting here and you and I are like, oh, am I going to do it right? And the truth is God's going to finish the good work he started in us, regardless.
That's
it's just,
think about too.
Are we going to make it a longer process? Or are we going to be obedient in it? But yeah, man, I think it is simple. And I think sometimes for me, the line between, yes, I need to follow him, but not letting my following him and my obeying him become about my ability to be good enough and to be saved and to be close to him, right? Because the truth is, if he let me go, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't hold on. He's the one holding on.
That's right.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But it's what it makes me think about.
It's really good, man. And like, I don't know, sitting here like processing while we're doing this and like even going back to the whole numb thing, like, I think another reason why is because I know how dangerous feelings can be.
Yeah, me too.
And
especially if you're a passionate person.
Absolutely. And like, it's so easy to fall in and let that run your day. And before you know it, it's funny. Life's full of moments. It's moment after moment after moment. And you have to choose whether or not to act into your feelings in each and every moment. And that is, when you think about that, it's crazy because that's a lot of moments in a day. And that is a roller coaster like you just did. That is such a roller coaster. And it's so easy to think, well, I let my feelings get away from me in this one moment. But before you know it,
they're doing it. It's happening all the time. That moment
is happening in one day.
That's really good.
And then before you know it, you're actually acting out in your feelings in a week, in a month, in a year, 5 years. And before you know it, 5 years have passed and you realize that, man, I didn't change for nothing because here I am still reacting. I'm not, there's been no change in that. And like, how crazy is that? Like.
So then, because people are listening, right, and we want to not just leave it there. So what do we do with that? What do you do with that feeling you have about the numbness and you don't want to be numb, but you don't want to go too far? So what do you do with that? I mean, we can even think of scripture. Instead of trying to figure out ourselves, like, what do we know? And what do we know, right? Because God's not leaving us in that confusion.
I know, to bring it around, I know that I am justified. I know that I've put my faith in Jesus and that I am saved and that there is no condemnation in Christ and that I am valuable. I know that I, even if I do mess up, that I'm still free. I know that, God is still working on me, like you said. We're being sanctified to be more like Christ.
Now, sanctified is just holy. It's just a fancy word for being made holy like God's holy.
It is a holy word.
Yeah.
I know that no matter, like, kind of what you said, like, I know that no matter how many times I may slip or try to run away, he's got his hand on me, like he's
You
not
won't
gonna
let
let
go.
go.
I love
Yep.
that, man. I love
And
it.
like, I know that the Bible talks about it being a mystery and that I'm not gonna understand everything, and like,
And that's okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, I know that everything I'm feeling right now is just minuscule to what it's gonna be after.
Mm.
So there is hope.
Yeah. And I think, seeking out what we can know too. Not being so overwhelmed with what we can't know, even in day to day or in the big picture of the mystery of it, that we forget that we have things we can know.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think I do that sometimes. I think the world does that too, right? They focus on what they can't know instead of what God. You hear a bear yawn in here?
There's a
again?
bear?
I have never heard a guy. Intern Clint does every single thing in the world loudly. If it's breathing, if it's yawning, if it's eating a burrito.
At this point, we may chalk it up to a true skill.
Yeah. The one week, I want you to understand, people, it was during our service.
Yeah.
And people heard he was yawning again, like a dragon. He's all the way across the room. I'm here trying to speak. And I have to say, hey, is there a dragon? Maybe a joke. And a guy got a hold of me later and goes, hey, man, I just want you to know, that yawn was clear as day. People heard it. We love you, Clint. But
that's so funny.
We should just start leaving in all of his sounds, and then people are going to know. But we love that guy. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I appreciate you sharing. I think you probably spoke for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Guys, we don't have to know everything. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you because you have days where you're going, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
It's not wrong for you to have days where you wake up and go, life feels meaningless or life feels numb. Because the truth is, that's God has said that, man. That's what I love about Christianity when people get, Jesus didn't lie. He said things like, you're going to have many troubles in this life.
Yes.
You're going to have trials. God has said from the very beginning all these kinds of things, without me, the pursuit of things as the end. So the pursuit of wealth as an end, the pursuit of a relationship as an end, the pursuit of fame as the end, right? That's the point. Will always be empty because God is saying, you were made to do those things, but without a relationship with me, you are always going to feel empty. And even with me, because we live in a world that isn't perfected yet.
That's right.
Right? That he hasn't come back and completely fixed. You're going to feel like aliens in a foreign land sometimes. And you're going to go, why is there these parts of me that are yearning for something I can't put my finger on?
Right.
Which we've talked about, that we're yearning for the echoes of Eden, like of what life was before all of this.
Good, man.
So I think, if you're out there listening or watching right now, just know that don't be discouraged by that. Let the Holy pray and ask God to guide you in those thoughts and think through it. And it's not wrong. Sometimes it's good to sit in those thoughts and not numb yourself or distract yourself. And
that's really good.
And to share them, like you said, because I'm kind of like you. If I'm not talking about it, one, I'm numb, or two, I'm so deep in my own head, and that's a dangerous place to be.
Absolutely, it is.
So really good stuff, man. I appreciate that.
Thanks for speaking into it. That was awesome. So, how was your week been?
Man, this is weird. Clint's celebrating. The joke here is he doesn't ask me, but he's gotten better. So this morning, I started to immediately tell you all these thoughts I had, and I stopped and said I should stop right now because otherwise we're not going to have anything real to talk about during Real Talk. That should tell you guys, this really did spring from us having these discussions in real life.
Absolutely.
And so I hope you guys have those and have people you can talk to. But so I have a lot, man. I have a lot to share, and even what you just said sort of spurred another random thought. I should start writing this stuff down. So I'll start with the simple one. For the first time, I think it started yesterday actually, but kind of like you, man, I had the thought yesterday, but I was like, nope. And then this morning, I woke up with this thought. For the first time, since all of this happened, so over a month, really, since it's hit hard, I am feeling and seeing the change that has come because of this quarantine and because of the virus. And I'm seeing it. I won't say I had panic, but I had this moment of like, somehow I saw reality, like that this isn't normal.
Right.
Because what I've noticed and we talked about is like, man, we humans, this is a blessing and a curse.
Right.
We can make ridiculous things normal.
Oh, we adapt. So
yeah,
easy.
and I think that's happening. And I think I was like, yeah, you know. And today I realized this is not normal. And what's really scary to me, so I'll make it personal and then I'll become the guy who thinks about God, life, and the church. And so for Todd, the people around me are changing. This is not if you're watching this, you're someone in my life, I'm not talking specifically about you. I might be, but it's really overall. People, person after person, people are changing, man.
Mm-hmm.
They are becoming different. They are becoming okay with being on their own. They are becoming. I actually texted my dad earlier. You know, we have some deep talks every now and then, only through text because I don't see him a lot. But where I put it this way, I feel like people are falling into themselves, and they're okay with it. Like everyone is sort of truly quarantining themselves, not just physically, but emotionally, relationally. We are falling into this thing, man. And when I talk to people, if I try to push into it at all, like I would normally, which I wasn't even pushing into it. So let's say it's you, and I see you because we're quarantined essentially together, but but let's say it wasn't. I feel like I'd say, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm getting this distance. I'm like, we are no longer where we were. I'm quarantining myself away from you, even in life. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Not only physically, but because we are physically quarantined, I'm going to quarantine you emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You are not in my life. And I think a lot of people are doing that. And it really, so Todd, for a guy that pushes for change,
right?
Like I love change in the sense of like trying to make things better. But if things change in general, it can make me uncomfortable. And my temptation is to, like, this is my own wound. If I feel humanity around are pulling into themselves, then I'm like, I'm on my own then. I'll do it. I don't need anyone, right? And it isn't even a negative thing. It's like, this is cool. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that. It's a weird thing, man. People are emotionally quarantining themselves.
Yeah.
Which is such an odd thing. That's an odd thing. Now, and I'm not comfortable with it. And it's funny because some of it's even like, so I think of a couple, we have married couples in our church.
Yeah.
Duh. And it's cool because we've been focusing on the positive. I remember the memes that went out saying, well, God is allowing you to have time with your family now. And God is like, it's you and like, that's all beautiful and good, right? But that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing even married couples falling into themselves, into their families, and that's it. That's all that exists.
Yep.
I see dating couples falling into themselves, and it's only them. And like that concerns me on a lot of levels, man. Because one, as Christians, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So, Christian brothers and sisters, like, it's very American to say like, I'm going to take care of me and my own, and not worry about anybody else. That's very American. That's not necessarily. That's not the kingdom way, right? And I think we can justify it because in America, it's really odd that we tend to, I've said this before, it's kind of a shocking quote if you don't know me, but we idolize family and marriage. Mm-hmm. We think that God's okay with that. No, I don't mean you shouldn't love your family, your wife, your husband, but I think people, I also don't think God expects that to be the end all be all of everything.
Absolutely.
Your family is also just another means to glorify God, both in serving them, but also how your family is with the world. And inviting people into, to be in community and relationship. And so it's funny because I'm like, I see these good things happening, man. These couples, like there's some couples who had some strain in their marriage and they've gotten closer, but at what expense? Like at the expense of cutting out the rest of the world.
Right.
So when you look at it from a Christian perspective, well, first of all, we'll get to this societally in a second, but from a Christian perspective, like just starting at a small level, like our church, it worries me.
Absolutely.
Because that's going to become normal. And like, I already get the sense sometimes when I reach out to people, they're like, what are you getting my business for?
Right.
And I was like, what do you mean, man? I thought we were like family, for lack of a better word. Like we are. And it's already being pushed. We're being pushed. We're pushing each other out of our lives because we're quarantined. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen, Lord willing, that everything comes back to normal, how do we have that community now? Now it's almost like, are we going to take steps back to where it's okay to have the appearance of community without the depth? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that churches all over the world are doing their best to have that still. You have Zoom
Right.
meetings and all that, but still, like a Zoom meeting, truthfully, is like, hi, everything's great. Click mother. As soon as it
Sure.
goes off, you can go back to people aren't really able to be in your life. Does that make sense?
Absolutely,
Or am I
man.
rambling?
No, I'm with you. This is really good, and I think you're right. I think people are falling in. I love what you said. People are falling into themselves or their families, and like you said, like, but at what cost? And like, I think people are starting to become more selfish right now.
I didn't want to say that word because I know people are going to get upset.
Right.
But isn't that what it is?
I
Like,
think
even
so.
if I'm married, okay, and I have kids even, and yes, okay, the Bible says if we don't take care of our family, it's worse than unbelievers. All right, I get this. We should. Nobody is saying that. I don't know why I have to preface,
right.
but hear me now,
Paul
world.
had to preface.
He did. I am not saying families aren't important. Clearly, the Bible says that, but understand it's not either or. Or not. Family's just an example. There are a lot of people that aren't in families in our church that are doing the same thing.
Right.
They're falling into themselves, and yeah, man, it's not at the expense of relationship and carrying each other's burdens and like
true godly values.
Yeah, and real love.
Yes.
Because it is selfish. If I'm married and I'm focused only on mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I'm still. Is that what God wants?
No. I think what we're doing is we're succumbing to the world in that.
It's true, man.
It's the truth. Like, we're not, what does life look like right now? We are this, and again, I've said this before, but this is why I love Jesus, and this is why I love Christianity, because about 99.99% of the time, what you're supposed to be doing as a Christian looks entirely different from what the world is doing.
Radically.
It's
Countercultural.
completely against the grain. And what are people doing in the world right now? They're quarantined. They are selfish.
And dude, and it's funny because we say, well, and everybody knows we aren't doing in-service or live group gathering.
Right.
And I completely agree with that. Okay, I'm not saying we shouldn't follow the laws of the land and all that. Yeah. I will say at what point it become, because every Christian would say we follow the laws of the land until it opposes God.
Right.
At what point does it become that? I'm not saying we're there. I don't think we are.
Right.
But at what point does it become that? And I think that's something each of us as Christians should better start considering.
Absolutely.
Because right now we're all under the assumption this ends at the end of April. Mm-hmm. What if it doesn't? What if we go, I remember early on they said, well, this could go into August.
Mm-hmm.
What then?
Right.
And like, why? We assume we're at the worst. Guys, listen, the virus, I won't get into too much of it. Virus is killing people. It's serious, okay? So did the flu. I'm not saying it's not serious or whatever. Mm-hmm. But, boy, what are we willing to sacrifice to feel safe? Mm-hmm. But even on top of that, we're following laws of the land and all that. But does that mean that are we also using that to justify selfishness?
I think it's very easy to.
Yeah, because, I have to be quarantined. Mm-hmm. Well, I have to take care of my family. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we say, we've said it, other churches say it, and I'm guilty of this. Well, we live in a time of technology, and we can reach out to each other anytime we want, but we're not.
No.
We're not, right?
Very true.
Truth is, we're not, and we're okay with that. And I don't think most people are consciously doing it. I don't think they're consciously saying, I'm going to be selfish. No, but I think that it's one of those things that if we're not careful, we can wake up two things. And in America, we don't recognize. Or we can wake up in a church we don't recognize. Even if the world becomes back to normal, man. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, because think about it right now. This is this time is a time that can very easily be used as a blessing. Absolutely. Like you said,
but
people can focus. Yeah. But it also just as much can be a time that the enemy can really take this. So what I think about this is in a way, we are a herd. Jesus talks about herding us as sheep. He wants us to go down that narrow path. This is such an easy time for us to fall away from that.
That's good.
It is.
Well, especially follow a different shepherd.
Absolutely.
Because he says go this way. Well, what if Jesus said, Jesus says love your neighbor as yourself, and the world says keep social distance from your neighbor, right? I mean, we're talking symbolically here.
Right.
Because the definition of social distancing, think about that word social. Mm-hmm. That's a powerful way to think. What we really are meaning when we say it typically is physical distancing. But
yes,
I think it's really, this just hit me. This
What
is
a
kind of
weird term to
powerful.
use.
Social implies more than physical, dude.
That means literally shutting yourself out
Yes. So what are we saying? Social distancing, it's like our minds inherently go, well, that means I should not have a relationship with anyone.
from the world. Yeah, that literally means let's dig in a hole and lay in it. That's it.
Oof. Grave. Anyway, man, I don't know. I think it's, so I've noticed that. So again, it makes me uncomfortable, man. And I'm fighting my own urges because
Yeah.
when people are snotty, I confess this to the whole world. When people are arrogant or snotty, I just get so stone cold sometimes. You know me. I'm like, okay,
Steve Austin.
I don't need anything from this person. You know, sometimes people are like, why are you so mad at other churches, Todd? And like, I'll confess that sometimes I can almost seem bitter because I get so irritated at like arrogance or and because I do, like, that's a flaw of mine, man. And like, if I sense someone being like, no, stay out of my life, fine, I'll stay out of your life, you know, like, but then I'm doing the same thing just for a different reason, but it's the same result.
You're right.
And maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're hurt because people are pulled away from them, so then they pull away, and before you know it, we're all pulling away.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, man. That's why it's so important to be real with yourself. Honestly, it's so important because if we don't, we're just gonna justify this, justify that, justify this, justify that, and then before you know it, like you said, we're all just spread out, not even thinking about each other. And like you said, that's when your church is different, or that's when your life is different, or whatever it may be. It all changes.
Dude, it reminds me of a proverb, even like of how we all do that. It's Proverb 18:15 says, "An intelligent man acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seek knowledge." And it's like, that goes all the way back to the sheep thing. Like, do we just accept things, or are we thinking through these things? You know, and even I don't know.
But
along with that, I told you there was a lot. I'll try to make it fast. You're like, Todd, shut up. Along with that is the idea. I am obsessed lately with this. Kind of goes back to, at what point do we just say we are living in fear? So I want you to picture. I'm not. I know I'm gonna get flack. Whatever. Say we lived in an area where malaria was prevalent.
sure.
Do we just never go outside? Ever? So we're Christians. I never will go outside again because a mosquito might bite me and give me malaria. My friend is out there drowning. I look out, I'm like, oh, I live in a marsh or something, and I see him drowning. Well, I can't go get him.
No, you're risk of malaria.
Hey,
can't do it.
so physical distancing. You know, the government says don't go out there and spread malaria. You know, what do I do? Or, you know, here's another one. The government, I know we're not there. I'm not making a comparison, but the thought is interesting to me.
Yes.
So you're in a country where it's illegal to be a Christian. Now, they may not say it's illegal, but it is, right?
Right.
Do I not go meet? Do I not go meet with you? Well, it could get him killed if I meet with him. Do I not give you a Bible? Do I not pray with you? And I'm telling you guys, you said this earlier, it could be an opportunity for growth. Like, you need to consider this stuff. Because I'm not, please hear me if you're a new listener. I'm not saying, this isn't a conspiracy, it's not even political. It's more spiritual in the thought of it. Like, I am fascinated by the idea that we're being given almost a practice run of what some people in the world are dealing with on a daily basis.
And we are crumbling.
Aren't we, man?
Absolutely.
I'm going to take out the physical distance that we have to have right now. Man, I don't know, man. What is going on?
Dude, I think it's such
Does this make sense?
No, dude, it's such a
Okay.
wake-up call, man.
It is if you let it be. Or it can become normal like we talked about,
Yes.
and then we're just... It's all ties together. Then it becomes normal. Then you're numb. Then you're...
Absolutely, man. You think of, people... Again, this goes back... I've said this before. I talked about it a couple weeks ago back. I think it was episode 40-ish range in the 40s, but... I talked about for a couple weeks in a row about American church. Like, we think that we are so bold and we think all these things, but something like this happens, man, we are crumbling, and this is nothing compared to what other people face every day. I think on a Real Talk Live, we had a news article about a pastor in China who refused to stop spreading the word and refused to stop giving out Bibles, and he got sentenced to prison. He's in prison right now, I'm pretty sure, in China.
Yeah.
Like, that's bold. That's the guy that's like Paul. He's going, I'm in these chains, but I still want you to be like me. Just not these. That guy can say that. And like, I'm not saying that we had to go to that kind of extreme, but
But
like,
what if we did?
exactly. But would you, if you were put in that situation, would you? You know?
That's the question, man. And I think
Yes.
that's how this can become a time to grow your faith. You know, it's almost
Absolutely.
like taking baby steps. So maybe for you, calling that person seems exhausting.
I love this.
You know what I mean? Like calling someone, your friend, and knowing that like I'm gonna be on the phone for an hour, like, and letting yourself be present and being. Are you
Yes.
willing to do that? Okay, there's baby step number one. Number two, hey, I need, your friend is sick. Okay, well, maybe it is. I'm gonna say it's not COVID. Okay, they have a sinus infection, and they're alone. Maybe it's that single guy, or maybe it's that old lady who's got a sinus infection and she doesn't have any soup or can't go out, and you're like, yeah, let me pray about it. Or do you go get her a can of soup and don't worry about whether or not, like, yeah, you take precaution, but you don't let the fear of possibly getting sick stop you from doing the will of God.
That's
and
so
being,
good, man.
I don't know. Those are steps, man.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know.
Or even just taking a moment to look at somebody while you're going to your Walmart
Oh,
and saying hi, smiling at people, something. Stand out. You know?
be a light.
Exactly. How are people going to know we're Christians? You know?
It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. I'm telling you, this is going to separate us. Even at this level, it's going to separate wheat from the chaff, right? The sheep and the goats, man. I think we're going to see it. We've talked about it since week one. The cracks in the foundation, the gold paints, whatever analogy you want to use. I want to be a guy who's gold, right, through and through. I want to be a guy who, and I'm as guilty as anyone.
Same.
But mine's weird. It's not necessarily that I'm afraid of getting sick, but I'm afraid of looking like I don't care that people get sick. Does that sound? That makes sense, because then they're like, well, he doesn't care about his people.
Absolutely. Or just, or for me personally, to relate to you, like, yeah, I'm just as guilty because I'm uncomfortable and I let my discomfort derail me all the time.
Like, so true, man.
And like, but the thing is about me, and that is different from a lot of people, is I'm willing to admit that, and I'm willing to know that I want to change that, and I don't want to be just another standard Christian.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to break past that
and
boundary and be better and be more like Jesus, truly,
Yeah.
and actually do things that are for God, like not just. I don't want to, and I love this because you had a sermon when I first started coming 4 years ago. I think it was in that same year, maybe 3 years ago. That was called Paper Christian. I don't want to be a paper Christian.
Yeah. And guys, we're just talking this out. We're not condemning anyone.
No,
I mean, I'm guilty of it
Again,
too.
Yeah.
I just said it. I've been like, okay, fine. You don't want to talk, I'll cut you out of my life. And I think I told you last week that I feel really convicted. People are like, oh, you guys are doing a good job putting stuff out. I'm like, no, I'm not. I haven't reached out. I reached out week 2 of this to a lot of people in our church. I haven't reached out. I haven't made calls like I should. And
Me either.
And it's not. And I'm like, why haven't I done that, man? And it's easy to fall into yourself. Fall into your life. And one of the things I told some of our huddle leaders that we're having now, we're trying to set up these virtual huddles. Did I tell you about this yet? Oh, this is right here new. So what I want to do is have like virtual life groups.
Okay.
And so Zoom meetings for an hour with people, and then setting them up all over so people can still invite new people and get to talk about have these talks.
That'd be so cool, man. I like
and
that.
like a lot of people just weren't interested in being. That's okay. Like, I get it. But what I reminded people is like, listen, sometimes community is not what you get out of it, but what you bring to it.
Yes.
So even if I don't need, maybe I don't think I need something, which is ridiculous. Maybe you need me.
That's
and
right.
Vice versa.
Absolutely.
So
that's why it's so important, man. Life is supposed to be so unselfish.
Yeah. And it goes back to what you said, like, I think if we think about it that way, maybe that'll help us not fall into ourselves. If I think, because your feelings are going to tell you I don't need anyone. So you can't go by like, well, yes, I do. Maybe you can motivate yourself by saying, well, even if I don't for some weird reason, maybe they need me. I don't know, just a thought. So that's where we're at, guys. A lot going on. And yeah, man, I think, like I said, wrapping it up for me personally, it's the first day, last 2 days that I've really felt this. And I've been concerned about what will this look like when it's over, not just the church here, but people, society.
Yeah,
guys, I think
uncertain.
You've got to don't be willing to trade long-term joy long-term relationships for short-term comfort, because I think that this is a time like people are willing to trade a lot to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that can mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yep.
In a big scale or a little scale. Anyway, we do have a couple questions. We still got time to do it. Wrap it up. I'm doing it. I'm answering one.
He goes, nah.
We got two of them, so I'm gonna do it fast. It's good. Hey, today was good, man.
Absolutely, man. I loved it.
Let me see. These are easy ones, Clint. Don't worry. Here's one. Does having the Bible being read to you the same as reading it? I like to sit and listen to the Bible app being read to me. I do read it myself as well, but I feel like I'll be judged for it being read to me instead. So it sounds like they feel like there are two questions. One, is it okay to play it audibly instead of reading it?
Oh, it's absolutely okay. As long as you're taking in the information and you're actually gathering it and you're able to apply it to life, absolutely, that's okay.
Yeah, I would agree. Do I think there's value in reading it? Sure. And I think it doesn't have to be either or, but you shouldn't feel guilty about that at all. This one is pretty. I almost don't want to do this one because it's interesting. But what was Peter's fate for denying Christ 3 times? So there's a couple things here. What was his fate? He was restored 3 times. After he was denied, Jesus comes back and says to him, "Will you feed my sheep?" And Peter's like, we get the picture. Peter's sitting around the fire, kind of ashamed. And Jesus said, "Hey, Peter, you love me?" "Yes, I love you." "Hey, you sure you love me?" "Yes, I love you." "You love me?" "Yes, I love you." And we feed him, and he's like, "Yes," and he felt mad. And God was saying, essentially, He restored him and was saying, "I know you love me." And what a beautiful thing that he was denied 3 times, and Jesus gave him the opportunity to take that back 3 times.
I love it.
That wasn't for Jesus, man. That was for Peter. So Peter still became the rock of the church. Peter still preached the first sermon. Peter still led 3,000 people to be saved. Peter still led the first church. Peter still performed miracles.
That's right.
Peter was always what Jesus saw that he was going to be. And that's the beauty of Jesus that's applied to you and me, is that he sees who we are and who he's going to make us, not who we were or even who we are in that present moment, man. That's the beauty. So I hope that helps you guys.
I love it.
Got anything else?
No, man, just to close, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, listening or watching. You guys mean so much to me, and I hope that you guys, this is a really good episode, I think. This is pretty raw, and I hope you guys don't take this as us coming at you or attacking you. This is more of us just thinking out loud. This is real talk. And this is how we, Todd and I personally, this is how we process things for our own lives as well. And I, this is us inviting you into our minds, and I just hope that you can take something from it and apply it, not feel condemned, because that's not what it's supposed to be.
Not the point at all. We're right there with you.
Absolutely. Other than that, I love you guys so much, and thank you for watching and listening.
Same thing. We got this new table. It's like you're sitting here with us. We hope you guys got something out of it. We don't pretend to be experts, guys. We don't pretend to sit on a high horse and judge anyone. We're just sharing with you our wrestlings. Big shout out to intern Clint behind the scenes. Thank you, brother, for everything
Absolutely.
you do.
Thanks, man.
And thank you guys for your constant support, encouragement, love, all of those things. Please continue to support this ministry. Let us know you're still watching. Sometimes for us, we need that encouragement. I'm going to be real. We need to know you're still watching. So we know that by you watching it, but also by your likes and your comments and your sharing. That lets us know that people are getting value out of this. And I can tell you that they are. But, sometimes we can give into our own insecurities and stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Again, the link up above is active. You can also donate to this ministry. I think people blow this off a lot, guys. We would love to have you partner with us. Look at us. We're not Richie Riches here. This goes directly back into the ministry, especially during this time. So don't think any amount's too small. But if you want to donate to this ministry, you can give anytime at www.theremnant.life/give, and you can donate directly to Real Talk if you'd like, the drop-down menu, once or multiple times, whatever you want to do.
Sure.
Other than that, we are on all podcast forums as well.
That's right. I know that we just actually recently got added to, was it iHeartRadio?
Yeah.
I think. So the next one will be Pandora, hopefully. So.
Yeah, and do us a favor. Please leave a review on whatever podcast site that you use.
That you listen from.
And that's kind of what your comments are on these Facebook. They're sort of your reviews as well, letting us know that you like it. And we appreciate you guys. I think that's about it. Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
Hey, guys, we hope you have a great day. We love you so much, truly. We're praying for you. Please continue to pray for us. and have a great day. God bless you.